The stars were silent. A great warship drifted above a lonely world, its shadow falling across mountains of black stone and dead valleys. Inside the ship, the hall was filled with alien voices. Tall creatures with shining armor and strange masks stood in a circle, watching the human prisoner who knelt in chains at the center. His head was lowered, but his eyes were steady, sharp like steel. This was Kale, a human warrior. In this galaxy, humans were seen as weak and unworthy. Yet he had fought against their empire with such fury that they feared him. And now, instead of killing him, they chose something worse: exile. The leader of the aliens, a towering figure with 4 arms and glowing eyes, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Human, your defiance ends today. You will be cast down to the Forsaken World, a place where nothing survives. Your kind is forgotten, and soon you will be too." The other aliens laughed coldly, their voices like metal striking stone. Kyle lifted his head. His face was bruised, his lip bleeding, but he did not bow. "You fear me," he said in a quiet voice. The laughter stopped. Even in chains, the human's words struck them like a blade. For a moment, the hall grew heavy with silence. Then the order was given. Soldiers dragged him through the corridors of the ship and threw him into a transport capsule. As the doors closed, Kale's eyes caught the endless void outside. Stars, cold and infinite. He whispered to himself, "This is not the end." The capsule fired and descended to the planet below. The landing shook the ground. Dust and ash rose into the air. The hatch opened with a groan and Kyle stepped out, weak but unbroken. He looked around. The sky was dark, filled with clouds that glowed faintly red. The land was barren, broken by sharp cliffs and ancient ruins buried in sand. It was a dead world, silent and empty. Yet something stirred in the shadows. He began to walk, dragging his chains, each step heavy but determined. Hunger and pain burned inside him, but he pressed forward. Soon he reached strange stone structures. They were not alien. They looked older, carved with symbols that made no sense, yet they felt familiar. He touched one of the stones, and suddenly it glowed faintly under his hand. A hum spread through the ground. Kale stepped back, shocked. The ruins were alive. His eyes widened. Why would they respond to him? From orbit, the alien commander watched through sensors. When the ruins lit up, his body stiffened. "Impossible," he hissed. "Those ruins have been dead for centuries." Another officer looked at the screen in horror. "Only humans can awaken them." The commander's fists tightened. He realized their mistake. Exile was not a punishment. It was a spark. On the planet, Kyle felt the vibration grow stronger. The stones pulsed like a heartbeat. He placed his hand again, and visions flashed in his mind. He saw great cities of light, ships larger than mountains, and armies of humans standing proud. He saw battles where humans fought not as slaves or weaklings, but as rulers of the stars. Then the vision ended, leaving him trembling. He fell to his knees, gasping. The ruins had spoken, showing him a truth lost to time. Humans were not weak. Once, long ago, they were conquerors. Kale's breath steadied. His exile was no longer a curse. It was destiny. Somewhere inside the ruins, a deep voice echoed. It was not human, not alien. It was something ancient. "Heir of fire," the voice said. "Your blood awakens the memory. Rise, for your kind will rise with you." Kyle looked around but saw no one. The voice seemed to come from the stones themselves. His heart raced, but instead of fear, he felt strength. He stood tall, lifting his chained hands toward the glowing ruins. The darkness of the planet did not feel so empty anymore. Above, the alien ship watched in panic. The commander shouted to his crew, "Destroy the ruins! Destroy the human before it is too late." But the ruins were already alive, spreading light across the barren land. Kale's eyes reflected the glow. He smiled faintly. The galaxy thought humans were broken, forgotten, and weak, but the ruins whispered a different story. And in that moment, Kyle knew. His exile was the beginning, not the end. Kyle stood in the ruins, his chains broken against the glowing stones. The strange light surrounded him, warm but heavy, like the weight of forgotten history pressing down. His breath slowed, and for a moment, the silence of the dead world wrapped around him. But the ruins were no longer silent. They hummed softly, alive once again after centuries. He stepped deeper inside, through cracked holes and broken pillars. The air was dry, filled with dust, Yet each step made the floor respond with faint glimmers. Symbols lit up as if they had waited only for him. His heart beat fast. The galaxy had told humans they were weak, just scattered slaves. But here was proof of something greater. He felt it in his bones, in the blood that burned through his body. He was walking inside the legacy of his people. Suddenly, the light formed shapes before his eyes. Holograms appeared on the walls, flickering like ghosts of the past. Cale saw human warriors in shining armor, ships that cut through stars, and cities that floated above planets. It was a vision of power and glory. His chest tightened as the truth hit him. Humanity was once mighty. Humanity was once feared. Then a voice spoke. It was deep and calm, echoing inside his mind. "You are the heir of fire. You are chosen." Cale froze. His eyes darted around, but he saw no one. "Who are you?" he demanded. The voice answered, "I am the guardian, the last memory of the human ascendancy. Long ago your people ruled the stars. They were betrayed, broken, and erased by those who feared their strength. But blood does not forget. You carry the spark." Cale clenched his fists. Betrayed, erased. His people had been lied to, turned into nothing in the eyes of the galaxy. But here was the truth. His exile was not a curse. It was a path. He moved closer to the glowing chamber. In the center stood a tall structure, half machine, half stone. The Guardian's voice flowed from it. "Your kind was scattered but not destroyed. The galaxy keeps you as slaves, as outcasts, but in you lies the power to awaken what was lost." Cale touched the structure, and sudden energy surged through him. His vision blurred as ancient knowledge poured into his mind. He saw maps of lost colonies, human worlds long abandoned. He saw blueprints of weapons and starships hidden deep in forgotten vaults. His head throbbed, and he stumbled back, gasping. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why not another human?" The Guardian's voice rumbled. "Because you stood against them. Because even in chains you did not bow. The spark chooses the unbroken." Cale's eyes narrowed. His heart filled with fire. He thought of the aliens who laughed at him, who called humans weak. He thought of the chains on his body, the humiliation, the cruelty. They had feared him, and they had been right to fear. He was not just a man anymore. He was a symbol. Outside, storm clouds gathered in the red sky. Lightning cracked across the barren land, striking near the ruins. The aliens above were watching, growing restless. On the warship, the commander slammed his fists into the table. "We should have killed him," he growled. An officer replied, his voice shaking. "The ruins have accepted him. If the old human technology awakens, he will become unstoppable." The commander's eyes burned. "Then send the hunters. No mistakes this time. He dies before he learns the truth." On the planet, Cale felt the ground shake. He knew danger was coming, but he no longer felt fear. He turned back to the glowing chamber. The Guardian spoke again. "The first hunters are near. They will try to end you, as they ended your ancestors. But you are not helpless. Take what is yours." The floor shifted, opening beneath the chamber. From the shadows, a metal case rose, covered in dust. Cale pulled it open, and inside lay a weapon. It was old, scratched, but powerful. A human blade forged from a lost age. He lifted it, feeling its weight. The blade hummed faintly, alive with the same light as the ruins. For the first time in days, Cale smiled. "Let them come," he muttered. His chains were gone. His spirit was burning. The ruins glowed brighter, as if answering his resolve. Above, alien ships descended through the clouds, their engines roaring. Hunters, armored and armed, prepared to land. The war for one man's survival was about to begin. Cale stepped out from the chamber, the blade in his hand, his eyes locked on the sky. The Guardian's voice whispered one final warning. "The galaxy fears you for a reason. Prove them right." The red sky roared as alien ships broke through the clouds. Their engines screamed, their shadows stretching across the dead land. Cale stood at the entrance of the ruins, his blade glowing faintly in his hand. His body was still bruised from chains and exile, but his eyes burned with fire. He did not run, he waited. Dust and ash swirled as the first hunter ship landed. The ramp dropped, and armored figures marched out. They were tall, covered in metal plates, their helmets shaped like beasts. Each carried advanced weapons, deadly and precise. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were hunters, trained to eliminate the strongest enemies of the Empire. The lead hunter raised his weapon toward Cale. His voice echoed through a speaker, sharp and cruel. "Human, your end is here. The galaxy has no place for your kind." Kyle gripped the blade tighter. His heart pounded, but he did not show fear. "We will see," he said quietly. The hunters charged. Blaster fire lit the air, burning the ground around him. Kyle leapt aside, rolling across the dirt. He was fast, faster than they expected. With a roar, he rushed forward. His blade cut through the first hunter's armor, sparks flying as the alien fell. Another tried to strike him with a blade of energy, but Kyle blocked, the sound of metal against metal echoing through the valley. Pain shot through his arms, but he pushed harder, forcing the alien back before driving his blade into the hunter's chest. The ruins glowed brighter, as if they were alive, watching the fight. Kyle felt energy flowing through him, guiding his movements. Each strike, each step felt sharper, stronger. The hunters grew desperate. Two surrounded him, firing from both sides. Kyle dove into the dust, rolled, and came up behind one. His blade sliced across the alien's neck. The other swung a massive hammer, striking the ground so hard the earth cracked. Kyle jumped back, barely escaping. His breath was heavy, sweat mixing with blood, but his spirit blazed. The lead hunter snarled, "You should not be this strong. You are only human." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Only human," he repeated, then lunged. Their blades clashed, sending sparks into the air. The hunter's strength was brutal, but Kyle fought with something greater, willpower. Blow after blow, he refused to fall. At last, he drove his blade into the hunter's chest, the light of the ruins flashing as the alien collapsed. Silence followed for a moment. The dust settled. Bodies of hunters lay across the broken ground. Kyle stood tall, his chest rising and falling, his blade dripping with alien blood. He looked up at the sky where more ships circled above. This was only the beginning. Inside the ruins, the Guardian's voice echoed in his mind. "You fought as your ancestors once did, but the Empire will not stop. More will come, stronger. You must be ready." Kyle wiped the blade and nodded. "Then I will be ready. I will not kneel. Not now, not ever." On the warship above, the alien commander slammed his fist into the control table. His voice was filled with rage. He killed the hunters. A human, one single human. This cannot be allowed. The officers looked shaken. "Commander, if the ruins continue to guide him, he may unlock more of the old human power. He could unite the scattered ones. He could start a rebellion." The commander's eyes glowed with fury. "Then we will crush him before that happens. Prepare the destroyers. We will burn the entire planet if we must." Back on the ground, Kyle walked deeper into the ruins, his body aching but his mind sharp. He knew the aliens would not stop. They feared him now more than ever. And fear was a weapon he could use. As he entered a dark chamber, lights flickered on the walls. More visions appeared. Human fleets, massive and unstoppable, fighting against alien empires. He saw his people winning, then saw their betrayal. A great council of aliens uniting against humanity, striking them down when they were strongest. Kyle clenched his fists. His ancestors had been kings of the stars, and now they were slaves. He would change that, he must. The Guardian spoke again. "The blade you hold is only the first gift. There are more hidden in these ruins. Tools, weapons, knowledge. You must claim them before the Empire destroys everything." Kyle took a deep breath. His path was clear. He was no longer just surviving. He was preparing. As the storm raged above and alien ships gathered in the sky, Kyle whispered to himself, "You wanted me broken, but you made me stronger. If war is coming, then I will bring it to you." The ruins pulsed with light, answering his vow. The hunt had begun, but it was not Kyle who was hunted anymore. It was the galaxy that would soon know fear. The planet shook under the thunder of alien ships. Storms of red clouds swirled across the sky, flashing with lightning as the Empire prepared to strike. Kyle stood inside the ruins, his blade in hand, his body still sore from battle. But something inside him had changed. He no longer felt like a prisoner or an exile. He felt like a spark ready to burn. The Guardian's voice echoed around the glowing chamber. "You have survived the hunters. That is proof enough. Now you must leave this place. The galaxy waits, and your journey cannot remain hidden here." Kyle looked around the chamber. The walls were alive with symbols and maps. They glowed brighter as he stepped forward, guiding him deeper into the ruins. "Leave?" he asked. "This world is a cage. How can I leave without a ship?" The Guardian's tone deepened. Follow the path. What your people left behind is not yet dead. Kyle followed the glowing symbols down dark corridors, past cracked pillars and broken halls. The ruins seemed endless, carved into the very bones of the planet. Finally, he entered a vast underground cavern. His breath caught in his throat. Before him rested a ship. Not alien, not broken junk, but a vessel of ancient human design. Its hull was scarred by time, but its frame was strong, sharp, and beautiful. A forgotten warship of the Ascendancy. This is ours, Kale whispered. His hand brushed against the metal, and the ship came alive with a soft hum. Lights flickered across its surface, glowing like old stars remembering their fire. The Guardian spoke again. It is called the Rising Flame. It has slept for centuries, waiting for one who carries the spark. Kyle stepped inside. The interior was dusty, but the consoles lit up at his touch. The systems recognized him, accepting him as if he had always belonged. The controls felt natural, almost part of him. The Guardian's presence filled the ship, its voice now stronger, clearer. You are not alone, Kale. Across the galaxy, humans still live in shadows, scattered, enslaved, forgotten. But if they see one of their own rise, they will rise with you. Kyle's jaw tightened. He could still hear the alien commander's laughter in his memory, the way they called humans weak, less than nothing. His hand gripped the controls firmly. Then I will find them. I will show them what we truly are. Outside, alien destroyers began to descend through the clouds, their weapons charged, aiming for the ruins. Kale felt the ship tremble as dust rained from the cavern roof. They will bury us here, he muttered. The Guardian answered calmly. Then rise before the fire consumes you. Kyle pressed his hand to the main console. The ship roared, ancient engines awakening with thunder. The cavern shook as the rising flame powered up. Dust and rocks collapsed around the vessel, but its shields ignited, protecting it from the falling stone. With a burst of fire, the ship tore upward, smashing through the roof of the cavern, breaking free into the open storm. The aliens were waiting. Dozens of ships circled above, their weapons locking onto him. Kyle gritted his teeth. Let's see what you fear so much. He pulled the controls, and the rising flame shot into the sky, faster than any alien ship expected. Plaster fire rained down, chasing him through the storm, but the old human ship moved like a beast reborn. Its weapons unlocked, and Kale fired. Twin beams of light cut through the storm, tearing apart two alien fighters in an instant. The explosions lit the clouds, thunder echoing through the skies. Kale's blood raced. He was outnumbered, but for the first time he felt powerful, alive. The commander on the warship shouted in disbelief. That ship should not fly. How is this possible? His officers trembled. It's human technology. It's responding to him. Kale twisted through the storm, dodging blasts, returning fire with deadly precision. Every strike felt like justice. Every alien ship that burned felt like a piece of humanity rising again. But he knew this was only survival, not victory. More ships would come. The Empire would not stop. The Guardian's voice filled the cockpit. This ship will take you far, but you cannot face the galaxy alone. You must find others. You must light the fire in them as you carry it in yourself. Kyle nodded, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond the storm. Then take me to them. Take me to my people. With a final surge, the rising flame broke free of the atmosphere, soaring into the black sea of space. The planet shrank behind him, its dead surface now only a memory. Ahead lay the infinite stars, silent, waiting. Kyle gripped the controls firmly. He was no longer an exile. He was no longer a slave. He was the beginning of something greater. On the alien warship, the commander watched in rage as Kale's ship vanished into hyperspace. His voice was low and furious. If humans rise again, the galaxy will burn. Back in the silence of space, Kyle stared at the stars. He whispered to himself, his voice steady, filled with promise. Then let it burn, because we will rise. The rising flame glowed against the dark, carrying with it the spark of humanity's return. The rising flame drifted through the black sea of space. Stars shone quietly, endless and cold. But for Kale, they were no longer distant lights. They were promises. Each star could hold a secret, a hidden colony, or a broken fragment of humanity waiting to rise. Inside the ship, the Guardian guided him. Its voice echoed across the cockpit, steady and calm. Long ago, when the Empire crushed the Ascendancy, many humans escaped. They hid on forgotten worlds far from the Empire's eyes. Some survived in shadows. Some became slaves. But the spark remains. You must find them, Kale. Unite them. Only then will the fire grow. Kyle's eyes stayed on the maps flashing across the screen. Then take me to the first, he said firmly. The Guardian marked a point on the star map. A mining world. HFY. Humans work there under chains. Broken, silent. But if you show them strength, they will remember who they are. Kyle tightened his grip on the controls. Then that's where the fire begins. The rising flame dropped out of hyperspace near a grey, lifeless planet. Haros IV circled a dying star, its surface covered in black mines and smoking factories. Alien warships hovered above, ensuring no one dared to rebel. Kale's heart grew heavy as he saw transports carrying thousands of tired, broken humans to the mines. Their eyes were empty, their backs bent under whips. Rage burned inside him. This is what they've done to us, he whispered. This is what they call humanity. The Guardian's voice hardened. Show them a different truth. Show them the fire. Kale guided the ship low through the clouds, landing near an abandoned canyon. From there he moved on foot, slipping past patrols until he reached the mining pits. What he saw made his blood boil. Men and women were forced to dig in the poisonous ground, their chains glowing with alien tech that shocked them if they slowed. Overseers stood above with weapons, laughing at their pain. Kyle gripped his blade. His voice was low, filled with anger. No more. He moved fast like a shadow of fire. His blade cut through the first overseer before the alien could scream. The others turned, but Kyle was already on them, striking with fury. Sparks and blood filled the air. The humans in the pit stopped, stunned. They had never seen one of their own fight back against the Empire. Kyle stood tall, his blade glowing in the smoke. You are not slaves, he shouted. His voice echoed across the mine. You are human. You are the fire they fear. The overseers opened fire, but Kyle charged into them. The ruins of Haros IV lit with battle cries. One by one, the slaves began to rise. They picked up tools, rocks, even the fallen weapons of the overseers. Fear turned into anger. Anger turned into courage. Soon the pits were in chaos. The humans fought side by side with Kale, shouting as they broke their chains. When the last overseer fell, silence filled the pit. The humans looked at Kale, their eyes wide. One older man stepped forward, his voice trembling. Who are you? Kyle raised his blade high. The light of the dead star reflected off its edge. I am Kale, I am human, just like you, and I am here to remind you of what we were. His words struck them like thunder. Whispers spread. Hope. The thing they had lost for generations. But the victory was short. Sirens wailed across the planet. Alien warships turned their guns toward the mines. The Guardian's voice spoke urgently inside Kyle's mind. The Empire knows. Their armies come. You cannot hold this world, not yet. Kyle looked at the freed slaves, their tired but burning eyes. Then we will not hold it. We will escape. But they must know the fire has returned. He led the survivors to the rising flame. The ship's hold filled with humans, crammed together, their eyes shining with something they had forgotten. Hope. The alien destroyers descended, weapons blazing. Kyle roared as he launched the rising flame into the skies. The ship danced through enemy fire, returning blasts that tore through the destroyers. Explosions lit the heavens above Haros IV, echoing across the galaxy. The Empire expected silence from its slaves. Instead, it saw fire. Kale and the survivors escaped into hyperspace, leaving the broken mines behind. In the quiet of the ship, the freed humans looked to Kale. They whispered his name. They called him the Spark, the one who fought when all others bowed. Kyle looked at them, his face hard but his voice steady. This is only the beginning. The galaxy believes humans are broken. We will show them the truth. On a distant council world, alien leaders gathered in fury. They watched the footage of Haros IV burning with rebellion. Their voices shook the hall. A human has risen. If he unites them, the Empire will fall. If humans rise again, the galaxy will burn. And far away in the silence of space, Kyle stared at the stars. His eyes burned with fire. Then let the galaxy burn, he whispered. Because we are rising. The galaxy trembled with whispers. A human warrior had risen, freeing slaves, destroying hunters, and stealing victories where none were possible. His name spread from one forgotten world to another. Kyle, To some, he was a myth. To others, a spark of hope. But to the alien empire, he was the shadow of a nightmare long buried. The council of rulers gathered in their dark hall, their faces twisted with fear and anger. "This cannot continue," one hissed. "Humans must never rise again." Another slammed the table. "If he unites them, our rule ends. We will crush him with fire, with fleets, with everything we have." Across the galaxy, Kyle stood on the bridge of the rising flame. Around him were the humans he had freed, tired but no longer broken. Their eyes burned with the same fire that lived in him. Many still wore scars from chains, but their spirits were unchained. The Guardian's voice filled the ship, calm yet heavy. "The Empire comes, Kale. A fleet greater than any you have faced. They mean to erase you, and with you the spark." Kyle's gaze was steady. "Then we will fight. And we will not fight alone." Ships began to arrive, small battered vessels piloted by humans who had heard the call. Smugglers, miners, forgotten soldiers, even broken machines repaired with human hands. They were not strong fleets, but they were united. They answered Kyle's message, "Rise." For the first time in centuries, human ships gathered under one banner. They formed a fleet, rough and fragile but alive. The Empire's armada appeared like a storm. Dozens of destroyers, cruisers, and carriers filled the stars with fire. Their commanders laughed. "Crush them. Show them humanity is nothing." The battle began, the sky burned. Alien cannons lit the void, tearing through human ships. But Kale fought at the front, the rising flame leading the charge. His blade had once cut hunters on the ground. Now his ship carved through enemy vessels in space. Each strike of his cannons echoed like thunder, and each explosion of an alien warship sent hope rushing through human hearts. The freed slaves who once whispered in silence now shouted with courage. They fought not as victims but as warriors. The Empire's commander snarled, "They fight like they were born for this. End them now." More ships pressed forward, overwhelming the human fleet. One by one, human vessels fell, burning into the void. Kyle gritted his teeth. The fire was bright, but it was dying against the storm. The Guardian's voice filled his mind. "You cannot outmatch their numbers, but you can outmatch their fear." Kale closed his eyes for a moment. He remembered the mines, the chains, the ruins, and the voices of humans who had believed they were weak. He opened his eyes, fire burning inside. "We are not weak," he said. His voice carried through every channel, to every human ship. "We are not slaves. We are not forgotten. We are fire, and fire spreads. Fight with me. Fight for every chain they placed on us. Fight for what they tried to erase." The humans roared. Ships that had been falling back now surged forward with fury. Even damaged vessels turned, ramming into alien destroyers. Courage became their weapon. Unity became their shield. Against all odds, the Empire's armada began to break. For every human ship destroyed, an alien cruiser fell with it. For every human death, a cry of defiance echoed louder. At last, Kyle drove the rising flame straight into the heart of the enemy flagship. Cannons blazed, shields cracked, and the massive vessel erupted in fire. The Empire's fleet scattered, retreating into the dark. The battle was won. The silence that followed was heavy. Debris floated across the stars. Many humans had fallen, but they had done what no one thought possible. They had defeated the Empire's fleet. The survivors gathered their ships around Kale's vessel. Across the channels, voices spoke in awe. "We fought. We won. We are human." Kale stood on the bridge, his blade at his side. His chest was heavy with loss, but his heart burned with pride. Humanity was no longer silent. They were rising. The Guardian's voice echoed softly. "This is the first step. The ascendancy sleeps, but with you it breathes again. The galaxy will fear your kind once more." Kyle looked out at the stars, endless and waiting. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of a promise. "This is not the end. This is only the beginning. Humanity will rise. Humanity will rule the stars again." But in the far distance, beyond the edge of known space, something stirred. A shadow older than the Empire. A power that had watched silently as humans and aliens fought. Its eyes now opened, ancient and cold. The Guardian's voice whispered in Kyle's mind, quiet and grim. "One war ends, Kale, but the true enemy has just awakened." Kale's grip tightened on his blade. His eyes narrowed at the endless dark. "Then let them come," he whispered. "We are ready." The stars shone brighter as if listening.